I'm right at home. I've always got headphones on, so
You do?
nearly always. I'm like,
Check these. What do you think of these ones? You know these ones?
yeah, actually, I have them.
You have them?
I have a set. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. I like them. I mean, the thing about those kind of Bluetooth headphones, the only thing about them is that the little lights on the side are super bright.
Right.
So it's kind of, if like on a plane or whatever, it's like when they turn the lights up, it's super bright for other people. So it's a little bit like, oh.
Yeah, you feel like self-conscious about it?
I feel a little bit like, oh man, is my Bluetooth move, or my Bluetooth moves like just kind of annoying somebody else's rest, you know?
That's an enormous amount of sensitivity.
Well,
towards others.
You know, sometimes you got to think about people.
Oh, it seems like it seems like you must do that a lot, man.
I don't know. I wouldn't make that claim.
But it's true, because I've never once thought about, I wonder if my Bluetooth lights are affecting others. And I'm a relatively, I feel like, sensitive person. Well, so you must be really sensitive. I'm giving you a compliment.
Well, thank you. It's also I have a tendency to wear like I'll wear them to bed, and and my wife was like,
in that case,
Bluetooth, and I was like, oh, maybe this light is annoying to other people.
Yeah,
it's strange. There are things you just don't think about so much.
Right.
But I don't know. It's a modern life is.
It's so wild, dude.
It's weird. We're in weird and getting weirder times.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because it's like we're up in each other's spaces in a way that's never existed in history. Like the amount of judgment, the amount of observation,
right,
and the amount of judgment.
And sensitivity.
And sensitivity or insensitivity. Like, it's like things are going on that are like, okay, that's still happening, but we've moved on to the next kerfuffle, the next insane thing. It's on a time loop. You could set your clock to the next thing you need to be outraged about. It's true.
And I feel like that's almost like jarring people to a point that they can never come into an internal space.
Right.
And I feel like that's almost like a conspiracy.
Well, people are shutting down. Well, people are kind of, they're engaging. Then it's too much engagement. Then they're trying to shut it down. But then they get pulled back in again. Mm-hmm. And it can be debilitating. You have to kind of like the thought about like what's happening with certain groups of people is like it's disturbing, and it's like, well, how much are you going to care about it? Like, what are you going to do about it? Then it's just like you hear about a disaster and people want to jump in and give money, but then people caution you, well, I know you want to help, but if you do, you don't know where the money's going,
right? And
then I think a lot of people, they actually do want to help, but then they have to be concerned with, well, am I giving the money to the wrong person? Is the NGO not gonna? Is it all gonna go to their expenses and not gonna go to the people that need it? And they're all the time. There are these kind of negotiations and considerations that we have to make in this kind of weird social, public, private space.
Well, it's interesting too, like you were talking about headphones and Bluetooth things, and like, have you ever heard of the idea that wearable technology like that is sort of prepping us to being chipped? Like, it's getting us used to the idea of constantly having technology on us, so then they can like chip us.
Well, I think it's convenience, right? The convenience is the little blue devil on your shoulder,
right?
Like, convenience is the thing. Like the idea that your refrigerator should be intelligent.
Right.
And your milk is spoiled and you want your refrigerator to contact your smartphone and tell you to get milk.
My milk's not spoiled, that's kefir.
And it's got right. And you have to say to yourself, well, how smart do I want my appliances to be? I actually don't want my appliance to be hackable.
I don't want them to be smarter than me.
Exactly, because the thing is, we're sold on convenience.
Yeah.
it's so convenient to do this, all kinds of things. And we're always given the best case scenario, right? The advertisers and the marketers are always giving us the best case scenario.
Yeah.
And no one will
Tells
ever.
us the downside.
Like, no one will ever. It's just like why you watch a drug company advertisement and people are happy and they're playing and this thing is supposed to help you with your blue moods, and then the crawl or the voice afterwards goes really fast, and they say, oh, you may have suicidal ideation, you may have thoughts of suicide or bad dreams, blah blah blah, is one of the side effects of the thing that's supposed to relieve your moods, and one of the side effects is that it's going to plunge you into the worst possible mood.
Yeah. Do you know that erectile dysfunction was a condition invented by an ad company after they made Viagra, which was a blood pressure medication, that they realized
positive side effect,
that they had a positive side effect, and then so they created a condition, and then they marketed that condition.
Yeah, and also all kind of medicalized terms.
Yeah.
ADHD, like things that we didn't grow
ADHD,
up with.
That's putting everybody on speed.
And sort of like things like obsessive compulsive disorder. Like the idea that it's the disordering of things, and the fact that you're not normal. Right. So we want to get you to a baseline of normal, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And you need to take this thing. And unfortunately, the side effect of this thing is that it's going to make you even more obsessive and even more compulsive.
Yeah, well, in terms of Adderall, it certainly does. But like with the chipping thing, that's going to be more than convenience, because they're going to like sell us on becoming superhuman. They're going to sell us on like, it ultimately like protecting our health and knowing everything. So
everybody's going to want but everybody's going to want the tech.
You think would you get chipped?
Well, the thing that's so funny about it is, would I get? It depends on what the chip is for. But then it's strange, because what you're doing is that you're being a beta tester.
Right.
Like basically, if you're agreeing to be chipped, you're actually going to be part of a control group, a really large control group, because there are going to be bugs. And they're going to be people that are going to be sent, they're going to, have psychotic breaks because of the chip, or they'll be locked out of this, or they'll send an EMP pulse that kills all of the electronics around them, or some crazy thing's going to happen. Right. And then those people, they'll say, oh, well, these customers experience these defects, so let's go back to the drawing board. And that's part of the problem of the early adopter. The early adopters of technology are still part of the program of the tech of the. They're still part of the technological program. You get the first version of it, so that the thing that goes wrong goes into the next version of the product. Yeah.
What do you think? Do you know simulation theory? That this is all
I think that's bullshit.
You do?
I do. I think simulation theory is, it's a thought experiment gone terribly, terribly wrong. Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea that we're in a simulation, because there are things that just, it's like talking about intelligent design. Like, please explain to me the reason for snot. Like, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of pus and snot?
Yeah, that's a good point. Why would they put that in the simulation?
Why would you put, why would you put diarrhea in a simulation? If it was a simulation, would be.
This is pretty good. I got no counter to this.
Why would you put all the grody, gross, weird, unfortunate things that happen to a human being, that happen to a person, that happen in the world? Why would you have those in a Why would that be simulated? It's actually happening. I think all of it is a happening. I think it's a happening, and it's going to happen until it stops happening. And I don't think there's no, I just don't believe that, if there was a creator out there, they're not going to explain it. They're busy trying to figure out their own existence. Right. Like the whole idea of a god is like the God's got all the answers. I think this creature or this personage has its intelligence is having its own existential crisis.
Right, and he's playing it out through us.
And you know what I mean? And their existential crisis is like,
why did I invent snot?
Why did I invent snot? What's the purpose of snot and pus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just doesn't. You know, like thinking about the cycles of I was going to say predation, but what's the other thing? When you have a host and parasites,
you know, predation is like a predator thing.
No, not predation, but parasites. You know, like super, you know, like the zombie snail that gets eaten by the thing, and the other thing shits out the thing, and another thing eats that, and then you know what I mean. It winds up being it's like a
parasites amongst humans also.
It's
like
bananas, right? It's
parasitic relationships that exist.
You know, it's kind of like why do we have to talk about predation.
Does that mean predatory behavior?
Predatory behavior, but I'm actually talking about teeth and claws.
Okay.
Like, you know, we have a situation where animals literally survive off of other animals. Like, this animal gets its protein from a particular other animal. It has to attack that animal. This insect does its thing. It goes in the sand and lays a trap, and this other insect comes by and it goes and snatches it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the alien from the movie, you know, just kind of bounces out and gets Tom Skerritt. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. It's that sort of thing, like, but in real time. You know what I mean?
But maybe that makes maybe that makes, I was going to say the simulation, but I don't believe this is a simulation either.
I don't think.
But I'm just saying, like, maybe that stuff makes this realm interesting because it has a yin and the yang. Maybe snot is necessary because snot is like the opposite of sunshine.
Well, snot, you know, I mean, eventually, you know, you think about the past, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have underarm deodorant. They didn't have mouthwash. They didn't have perfume.
I forgot to put some on today.
They don't have any of that. They didn't have any of that, right?
Yeah.
So you think about the past. People think about the past in a funny way, but you know, it was funky. People were also drunk all the time.
Did you ever read that, like something like the Renegade History of America? Like, they were drunk out of their mind the whole time.
Yeah,
like crazy. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so they're drinking like room temperature beer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, no, it was at like all hookers and drunks.
And these people were the ones that made history. People were paid in booze. Yeah. They were paid. So. You know, 100%. All of these things are going on, and then coffee came in, and coffee was like the wonder drug. You know, you go, you perk you up. You know what I mean? Like your workforce is blah 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 blah. You know, so that happened. You know what I mean? And this whole idea of substances, you know, it's really. I've been actually listening to Terence McKenna. You know, I
love him.
And Terence McKenna's idea is that, you know, it's because of psilocybin and
that we evolved.
That actually consciousness evolved because we ate these fungi and these various substances, and suddenly we became self-aware.
Yeah,
we became whoa, you know, and at that point, a similar thing was happening around the world, and it's an interesting, and people have, you know, kind of argued, you know, against, but he really, you know, listening to him, a bunch of his YouTube lectures, you know, in the last really the last few months, it's been very interesting, his point of view.
Absolutely.
About consciousness and about what culture is, and the kind of limits to thinking that are placed, you know, the limits of gender, the limits of these roles, patriarchy, cultures of all kinds, this whole idea that this thing is shaped by, you know, there's a normal. But the normal is something made up. It's all made up. We're all making it up. And the difference is that grandma did it, so you can't. And that's what we're doing because grandma did it. You know, grandpa, grandpa.
Yeah. Have you messed with any psychedelics?
No, but you know, I've been an anti-drug person my entire life, and I have to say that in the last couple of years, you know, it's the one thing I have no interest in heroin or cocaine or any of these things.
Those are bullshit, dude.
Yeah,
but psychedelics are medicinal, and they are expansive, and it's particularly someone like you, I think, would probably garner a lot from some of those experiences.
Part of the reason why I don't discount it is because of Hendrix, Aldous Huxley.
Exactly.
You know, the
Aldous
Beatles.
Huxley, like, do you know how when he died, the story of his death, that he had his wife shoot him up with a bunch of LSD right as the moment he was passing over.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? That's in
totally
his Wikipedia. Wild. Like, and it's not like, I would think that would be like, you know, like one of the coolest death stories ever. Like, he went out tripping his balls off.
Well, he was very concerned because he was convinced that these were tools that would save humanity, and he was very concerned about the abuse, that it would become recreational. He was like, he thought it should be under strict supervision of people that knew what was going on, and he was just like, man, if it just becomes something, a party drug, that will miss the point. And so it's like sort of like the idea of the door, going through the doors of perception, and then bringing things back, like so Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, or the Stars That Play with Laughing Sam's Dice. These artists went out there, and they brought back their observations, and they shared those observations with the world, and that's the value. Is a kind of to break out of conditioning. To break out of right, wrong, duality, and to kind of, actually see other pathways, and then be able to access them.
Yeah, well, it's intelligent stuff, all that kind of stuff, psychedelics, it's commingling with other forms of intelligence that expand your intelligence.
Like one of the things that's been said is like people have taken one trip and they're cool. Like it's not like you have to be a habitual user. It's like people went on a trip, they took ayahuasca, and they were like, oh, I'm part of everything and everything's part of me. But it's not the intellectual, like anyone can say that. Yeah. But they know it.
They've experienced it.
They actually feel it at a cellular level. And once you've experienced it at a cellular level, like you can walk away from it going, right. Yeah. Like, like all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know what I mean? The beautiful. Yeah. All of it has a role to play.
Yeah. Well, microdosing too might be a way to like go into it for you, if you like, because that's like very mild, right? And it can just elevate you a little bit, and just sort of like, especially playing music with it. Like I can't imagine what you would come up with.
Well,
like,
this is the thing about the imagining, because the whole idea of other worlds and other ways of interacting, other ways of thinking about tonal organization, about lyrics, about part of the thing is, well, thinking about the end result. I mean, we've been conditioned, just as a class, creatives, we've been conditioned to think about the end result. Like we want to do the thing in order for the thing to happen. Right. So like this idea of, combining these tones and these words and, getting it licensed to this other thing. And then this will elevate my station. This will help my family, blah, blah, blah. And we move away from the thing for its own sake. And it's kind of like thinking of the end result as an outgrowth of, like the quote unquote idea of success or whatever is an outgrowth of exploration, not like putting the end in front and going, you know what, I want to achieve this goal. Like people say, I want to make the new music. It's an artificial thing. Like everything that's cool happened by accident. Like what you want, what we really want is to create the conditions for happy, unexpected accidents to happen. Yeah. And also to have observers who are clued in enough to go, and that observer could be a quote unquote producer, if you will. Because the participants should be free from the burden of having to think about the context of the thing, right? So you have like an observer that goes, you know what? That's dope. That's dope. That's incredible. That's interesting. And maybe cut out like, this thing, and have the creative process not be infected with, I really hope this is going to be top 10. Because the hope for the thing, it's like wanting to play well. Yeah. The desire to want to play well is the barrier to playing well. It's literally the thing that's blocking. I'm speaking in terms of improvisation or having a moment, like concern about the audience.
Well, because it puts you in your head.
It puts totally in your head.
And it gets you out of the flow state.
Exactly.
It's like somebody told me yesterday that Josh Radnor came on the podcast, and he said, Miles Davis said he never plays a show or something. He just rehearses in front of the audience. Like that kind of liberation of just not.
That's why sound check.
Yeah.
That's why sound check when the sound check is dope, that's actually bad. Like
right, that's always the kiss of death.
It's the kiss. You know what I mean?
When it's
like
terrible, you know the show's going to be amazing.
Exactly, because the universe doesn't understand sound check. The universe doesn't understand. The universe doesn't understand demo. Demo doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Demo. There's engagement. There's making contact or not making contact.
Right.
So really, all sound checks should be essentially line checks. Is it sounding good? Can you hear? Can you hear? We're done.
We're done.
And like, well, I want to go. No. Mm-mm. It's like, or don't go through the whole. Please don't go through it, and please don't do a solo in the sound check. It's like,
right.
Okay, this is working. That's working. Can you hear stuff? Great. We're done.
Yeah.
It's because the point of contact, I've seen it again and again and again. It's happened to me again and again, and I've seen it happen with other performers.
Yeah.
Like, someone's like on their back during the sound check and they're wailing. It's like, that's not gonna happen during the gig. You did it.
Right.
You kind of did it, and because you've already done it,
your soul expressed it already.
It's not gonna. You're not gonna. There are no do-overs. You're not gonna recapture the firefly. The firefly floated in front of you. You grab the firefly. That firefly is not gonna be in the same spot. Right. So that's something that's like, because we have anxiety and we want to do well and blah blah blah. It's fighting against the present moment. And the present moment is whatever it is, like being cool with whatever it is. So, like one of the things is like, okay, I'm like, I want to play well. That's a desire. I want to, but that is in the way of it actually happening. And that's one of these weird things to negotiate.
Kind of like a Zen thing.
It really is. And it's not, but it's also when you're in an ensemble, it's not just you, right? It's not just about you being dope. It's like you need your bassist. You need the person on flugelhorn. You need the drummer, especially the drummer. You want everyone to do well. That's like you should want everyone in the neighborhood to have a good life.
I was just about to say, if you're a solo performer, it's also between you and the audience. The audience also has to support the thing.
That's it.
In some kind of way.
And because the thing about a performance can be can really go meta. And not in a good way. So it's like,
what's meta?
Meaning to say it's self-referential. It's like kind of like waving your iPhone or waving your lighter. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a genuine outgrowth of the thing that's happening, it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
But if it's like, this is the expected gesture at the expected time, it's a kind of performance of a performance.
Yeah.
It's like sort of like when somebody's doing the thing that's representative of the thing, they're not doing the thing. They're doing the representation of, like, talk about, is everything a simulation?
Right.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like you can go to a rock and roll gig and and the audience is faking and the band is faking and everybody's being fake together, and everybody will walk away saying, we had a good time.
I agree with you on all of that, but then when you play live, how do you just, what's different? How do you make it different?
So the thing is, preparation ahead of time and then letting go of the end result.
Yeah.
So making sure your hands are loose, making sure, when you pick up the guitar, it's not a total stranger to you necessarily.
Yeah.
So preparation, but not obsessively, not obsessively doing it. Like preparation, and then...
But not obsessive preparation.
Not obsessive preparation.
But enough preparation.
Enough.
I've gone under preparation before, like not enough.
Under prep can be...
I've done that,
Oops.
Hold on.
Hey there.
Run cold.
Oh, you're running cold now? Okay, I got it.
Okay. We can just to be continued.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Everything's running.
Thanks, Vernon.
When you come back.
Oh, great. Great. Now, I don't know. Just like blah, blah, blah.
Cult doesn't cult of personality now?
Yeah.
Let's go watch.
Okay.
We're back. Well, you just kind of disproved everything you said because that sound check was wailing.
Well, you know, that's because ain't no gig later on. You know, it's just hitting it.
Right, that's right.
You know what I mean?
This is for Saturday,
This
right?
is the gig.
This is for Saturday. This is like, but you know, it's just kind of fun to kind of go through it.
Yeah.
And well, you know, the stakes are there's no stakes, right? There's no
Right.
stakes at all. It's not like there's going to be an audience later on. So that same principle, it always applies on a show, on a performance day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to keep it at half. It's not like you want to kind of keep it at half or lower intensity on a level. Go through the whole thing, but don't just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think genius is?
What is genius? Genius is doing consistently what happens to all of the rest of us occasionally. Everyone occasionally can have a moment of light, can have a moment of the perfect pitch, the perfect foul shot, you know what I mean? That can happen, you know what I mean? The perfect note bend can happen to a rank beginner. Genius is that's the baseline. And a constant exploration of other possibilities. So, in other words, so Prince and I are the same. We were both born in 1958. So the thing about listening to Prince was that he saw The Day the Earth Stood Still. He saw Michael Rene, when I saw Michael Rene. He heard the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. He experienced Bull Connor's Dogs on Walter Cronkite talking about that. We were the same age. The difference is he heard Weather Report, Miles Davis, the same times that I did, right? The difference is he's a genius. Like he literally, to me, when I heard 1999, those chords, dun, 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 I said, this guy's been listening to Joe Zawinul. The sound of it, the approach,
Interesting.
He heard Mysterious Traveler. I could hear he heard Mysterious Traveler for it was no doubt in my mind that Mysterious Traveler was part of his listening. He just turned that into the ultimate party jam. He took that input from the very kind of on the further edge of the fusion thing. And he just turned it into a party jam.
Did you play with Prince ever? Or did you meet him?
I've had just a couple, played with him, jammed with him once, and had a couple of encounters with him. And it was funny because we always had just a friendly, there were a couple of times. One time I was in Minneapolis, and I'm walking around. I was in Minneapolis, I think with Living Color, definitely. And this Yellow Lotus, I heard, "Hey Vern." I heard, "Hey Vern." I turned, and it was this Yellow Lotus sports car.
Right.
And I saw a glimpse of it, and he was rolling up the window, and he zoomed off. And I was like, "What the?" And it was him, And then there was this thing. He was in New York playing at the Palladium, and I was living at the time on 13th Street. And his
13th
limo,
and what?
13th between third and 4th.
Okay.
I was living in the American Thread building.
I'm in that neighborhood now.
You know how it go. You know how it go.
Yeah.
In Union Square, the run-ins.
Yeah.
And he just, his limousine was on 3rd Avenue and Ringwood. Yo, Vern. Yo, man, what you doing, man? So I live on the. He said, yeah, I'm playing it. Blah blah blah. So
That's
so
cool.
that turned into a crazy evening. That's like a moth story.
That's funny.
Go into it.
Oh, it was, it was a long night. I'll just say that it was a full evening. It was there was a couple of things that happened that were really interesting and
Like what?
So a friend of mine, I won't talk about the stage thing. That's a whole other thing. But the funny thing that happened was that because I was invited to go to the VIP, right? So I'm walking to the VIP area after the gig, and it's a bunch of celebrities, Lenny Kravitz and a bunch of folks. So I'm going in, and I saw a friend of mine, a woman who shall remain nameless, who is very, very professional, put together person, and she essentially had an almost meltdown because of the proximity to Prince. And she's literally was babbling. I have to meet Prince. Please introduce me to Prince. You gotta introduce me to Prince. I have to meet Prince. You understand? I'm his biggest fan. I have to meet Prince. Please introduce me to Prince. Like it was, and I'm not doing it justice.
Right.
It was
over the top.
It was over the top.
Might have been drug induced. It sounds like cocaine.
No, I don't think so. I think it was. She was that much of a fan.
Oh, okay.
And it got to a point where she was starting to oscillate at a certain. So it was like she's gonna have a complete meltdown, and I just turned to her and said, "Okay, be cool. I'm gonna bring you in. You gotta stay. And she instantly got it together, and the whole time, like one of the security guards was just watching the interaction, and he just got this bemused smile on his face, and it was a smile that said, "You know, if anything goes wrong, I'm grabbing you first."
To you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If anything goes wrong, if she goes crazy,
it's your fault.
If she go crazy, I'm yoking you.
Yeah.
So it was very clear that and I walked in, and there was just and Prince was holding court, and there was a bunch of people hanging around, and as we were walking towards him, she's getting together, but she's starting to oscillate. Like literally, she's starting.
She's going again.
Like as we were getting close, she like her shoulders start to go, and she's I said, I'm thinking to myself, I've got to get this done because she's going to completely lose it.
Yeah.
I was like, hey man, there's this friend of mine who she's a huge fan. She really wants to meet you. And he looked at me, and it was this moment of real uncertainty. He could have said, "Nah, man."
He sensed it. Oh, he said
no. He didn't. He could have said, "Nah, man."
Oh,
But he just was like, and so he said, I won't say her name. He said, and he said, "Nice to meet you." Touched her hand, and when he touched her hand,
she exploded.
She right before the introduction, she again sucked it in. She became a solid mass. She touched his hand, but upon touching his hand, she started to quiver, and then I quickly just kind of got her out the room before it went sideways, because it was already too much.
Yeah.
And so that was and when I took her out of the room, the security guard looked at me like, okay.
You handled it.
Yeah, you're right. He gave me that.
He gave you props.
He gave me like, okay.
That's cool.
Was that the night you jammed with him?
That was the night that I jammed, and like I said, it's a longer story that I'm not going to get into. But it was funny. It was one of those nights. You have one of those nights where it's just like, wow, I can't believe that this is happening, and wow, it was really like that. Like the time I played ping pong with Bill Wyman.
That's funny. What happened there?
He beat the pants off of me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's like those guys, the Rolling Stones, those are guys that are snooker and pool and poker. Like, they're like,
because that shit's backstage all the time.
Yeah, they're sharks, right?
Yeah.
And it was so funny. Yeah, so I played ping pong with Bill Wyman, and he just beat up on me. And then there was another time when the Rolling Stones had hired a background singer. It was at a certain part of their tour that we were on, and she was really petite. Well, no, not. She was beautiful. I mean, all the women were beautiful, but she had her heels on, and we had been playing ping pong. There was ping pong and a pool table. So we were playing ping pong, and she says, "Oh, do you mind if I play?" And she beat the shit out of us.
In high heels.
In high heels. Like, we couldn't do nothing with it. She counteracted, I mean, because each of us had their own, like, we had all our, because we played a lot. So we had our own kind of all kind of spins, and, you know, where the ball would hit the paddle and go, you know.
Yeah.
And she counteracted everything. There was nothing, like everything we did, she played ping pong, and she didn't take off her shoes. She was in high heels, and we couldn't do nothing with her. All four of us played her, and it was like...
It's funny what you remember.
It was like 21... I mean, the scores were... they were embarrassed. It was like 21-5, 21-10, 21-8.
You bringing up Joe Zawinul? Is that how you say it?
Joe Zawinul.
Joe Zawinul. That reminds me of Jaco Pastorius.
Oh,
man. And he was like... always trying to seek his approval, right? Did you see that documentary? Well, you knew Jaco, right?
Yeah. And Jaco was Jaco's a really special dude.
Yeah, he was my hero growing up.
And so it's so... I remember when I found out about Jaco being killed, I was mad. I was more mad than I was sad. I was sad, of course, but I was really angry because it felt so stupid. It felt like such a stupid way.
A waste.
This dude was so all the flashy stuff from him playing bebop on the fretless bass one. It's like you have to listen. Like, you listen to his playing with Joni Mitchell,
right? Blue or no Mingus.
You know, Mingus Hejira.
Yeah.
His playing on Hejira it's so sensitive. It's so inside of the feeling of the tunes.
Right.
Like, he had just he wasn't just a bad cat. He was like...
musical as hell.
He was in it. I mean, you hear him on Bright Size Life, the Pat Metheny record. He's just...
I love that stuff.
And, I mean, he's so... so he was just... he was just a special person.
Yeah.
And he had his issues. He had his problems. I mean, but man, he was a remarkable... just remarkable. And and some people, they lionize him a little too much to me.
Right.
But he was the real deal. He was an incredibly special musician.
Yeah.
And some of his tunes, like Continuum, off of his first record. Portrait of Tracy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the thing I always think about with you is when we met at Peter Gabriel's studio at Real World.
Yeah,
in
Real
Bath.
World, Bath, yeah.
And I always remember you playing guitar on one of his tracks, and because it was that recording week and all those different musicians were there. And then
Joe Strummer and all these people.
Joe Strummer was there.
It was wild.
And Strummerville and all that, and Carl Wallinger.
Yeah.
And there was a one time
Chad Blake.
I've worked with him a bunch, John Leckie was there.
So it was crazy. I mean, it was such Hugh Srinovas.
Yeah.
Was there? I mean,
the Das Ball family.
So that was a special week.
It was a wild happening, and that's when I got signed. I was like I was working at a guitar shop like a month before that.
Wow.
So that was like my intro into showbiz. I just thought that's how it was. Like, because when you're a kid and you imagine making it, you enter a magic realm.
Of course.
So that actually literally happened to me, because that was my first going into it, and that was a magical realm. I didn't even know that it wasn't always just like that.
He was incredible. I remember him saying he was so taken with you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He was like, man, this guy is a brilliant songwriter. And I was like, man, it was like, because I'd never heard of you. And
you were real supportive of me too.
You were great. You were great. And the thing I liked is that you had a different, like, you would do stuff, like you had like acoustic guitar and you had pedals. Like you had like, you were like looping your acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he's dealing with technology at this level.
Yeah.
He's just engaged with it, but it's not a big deal. It's just his methodology. But the fact that he's doing it with acoustic guitar, I thought was really fresh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You were like one of the first people.
Yeah, to loop
to do that as a thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's always been, when I've run into over the years, we're bonded because because that was so strange that I was even there.
Yeah.
Because how I wound up there was I was doing a thing with.
How did you wind up there?
Because I played with a poet named Jessica Hagedorn. And I did a duet performance with her.
Yeah.
And it was me and like a drum machine or something, and we were doing some of our poems. I was playing kind of part things.
Yeah.
And somebody was there and said, "Man, would you be interested in coming to Peter Gabriel's doing this thing? Would you be interested in participating?" And I was like, "Hell's yeah!"
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, we were in Bath. We were in the studio and there was a river going through the middle of the studio.
Yeah.
It was the most incredible recording facility.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what there were like 8 or 9 different studios, and Peter had 2 of everything. Like he had prototype, he had shit I'd never seen. But I was like, what the hell is that? I think he had like one of the first Sherman filter banks or something. I was like, what's that?
Yeah. Hey, he bought SSL just to keep that company alive because he had so many SSLs or something like that.
And what was so funny about him was that he had this one studio where everything was in the room. Like there was no separate booth. Like the control room,
like his main room, like off in the corner.
And and you're thinking, he's gonna sing through fancy. He had a 58, and he was singing in this 58.
Yeah,
and he sounded just like Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an amazing experience.
I remember you getting ready to play a guitar part, like a recording, because everyone was like improvised recording, and everyone was like, everybody was there when you were about to do it. I just remember it was at night. It was a vibe. And you played one, and I don't know, you played one note over and over again across the whole track, like this drone. I'll never forget that.
Oh yeah,
it was dope because it was like not sure what you would play over it, and plus your style, it can tend to be like frenetic or and you did the actual opposite of that.
I started doing this thing where it might have been the thing where I was tapping, and it was like a drone thing.
Yeah.
And it was like I was playing an octave kind of and tapping.
Exactly.
Tapping the unison.
Right.
So
that's what you did.
So I was tapping the octave and I was tapping the unison on
Yeah.
the string in the middle.
Right.
And it's like the octave is like going, it's just droning,
Yeah.
but it's actually
moving,
but it's static, but it's moving because I'm tapping it. And that was pretty fun.
That was dope.
That was pretty fun. It was a really, really interesting, because there were so many different, because there were people that were well known, and then there were people that were really rich, and there were people that were really broke, and it was really
and everybody would party at the end of the night, and like even like Johnny Depp and Kate Moss showed up, and Iggy Pop showed up.
I know.
And it was crazy.
It was kind of crazy. I can only imagine for a young musician. Dude, it had to have been.
It was nuts.
It had to have been.
I don't think I've recovered yet.
Things like that. Events like that.
Yeah.
When you get thrown into the deep water.
Right.
Of the thing, it can be. I mean, I remember like we got picked up by the Rolling Stones.
Right. Mick Jagger discovered you, right?
And Mick Jagger. Well, Mick Jagger. It's so funny because Mick Jagger. He was instrumental in us finally getting a deal, because we've been building a reputation in New York, and
it's in the 80s in New York.
Yeah, in the 80s, in the middle 80s, we've been building a reputation, and we actually, after a kind of a while of I would say, Hilly Crystal. You know what I mean? CBGBs. I mean, none of it would have happened without CBGBs.
That's awesome.
Because CBGBs was, in a sense, the punk and post-punk scenarios, and like all Blondie and Talking Heads,
Bad
Brains. You know what I mean? The Cro-Mags and just Prong. Like all these bands that kind of came out of the CBGBs era. We were part of this milieu, if you will, and it really felt like something to be a part of, and I just think about, because Hilly is like a, angel to some, demon to others. There are people
controversial
dude, absolutely, but I will say that
All the best people are controversial.
Yeah, really, and so I feel very much that he was very much like the dude on the West Coast, Bill. What's his name?
Bill Graham.
Bill Graham. He's
Right.
very much like Bill Graham,
Yeah.
in that he was an impresario, and he recognized talent. The thing about Hilly was like the manager of the Vanguard. So he was there when Coltrane.
Wow.
And the Coltrane Quartet was coming through. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so his purview of music, the way he heard music, was really, he took everything in. So nothing threw him. It wasn't like, free jazz was like something unknown to him, or punk was unknown to him. He just had an aesthetic that was really broad. And I've seen every kind of thing. CBGB's, man, I remember seeing Johnny Skillsaw one, and it was crazy. I've seen like all kinds of. I remember when Material used to play at CBGB's, and that's where Michael Beinhorn, came out of that band.
So how did Mick find out about you guys? So you guys were already like happening. So it was like.
Yeah, so it was like he was in New York and he was auditioning musicians for his record Primitive Cool. He had already done She's the Boss. Right. And that was a successful solo record. So he was doing his second solo record. And he kind of wanted to play with a whole bunch of people. Yeah. And so it was kind of a cattle call, and everybody and their grandma showed up, and Doug Wimbish, who had already been playing, he already toured with
the Stones, or
no, he had toured with Mick,
right? Yeah, Bill was still in the band.
So he knew about Living Color. Kurt Loder, who was an MTV guy, he knew about the band. David Frick, who wrote for Rolling Stone magazine. So it was like a confluence of these people. Like, man, this dude, he's got a really interesting band. And the audition, and I auditioned to play. I wound up playing on a track on the record. But it was
cool.
On Primitive Cool, but the audition was crazy. It was like totally like people that came in there like having learned all kind of Stones songs. He didn't want to play any Stones songs, so he wanted to play I Heard It Through the Grapevine, and people were like, "What?" Like he wanted to do like Motown stuff. Yeah, he didn't want to do Stones things, and people came in ready to do Jumpin' Jack Flash.
That's funny.
And it was weird because it was tense, because it was a lot of he embodies rock and roll. It's like 20th century rock and roll. Like, if you talk about who's a rock star, most people, the first person they're going to mention is like Mick Jagger.
Right.
So,
and one of the best songwriters.
Oh yeah, So he said, "Man, I'm going to come check your band out." And I was like, okay, sure.
Was that at CBGB's? Did he come?
And came to see him and Jeff Beck.
That's crazy. Jeff Beck too.
Yeah,
that's wild.
And they
man.
came.
Was that nerve-wracking as hell?
Well, what happened
really?
was somebody ran up to me and said, who's here? I think it's Hilly's son. Oh man, Mick Jagger's here with Jeff Beck. And what I did was, I immediately put it out of my mind, and I didn't tell the band.
That's so genius. How did you know to
Because
do
it was so it was so over the top.
Yeah.
It was so over the top that I think I said that's I said in my mind, I said that's bullshit, they're not here. I literally went, that's bullshit, they're not here. And I went and we said, and I didn't say a thing to the band.
Right.
Because
it would have fucked everybody up.
Everything would, and I literally put myself in this mind state to where I came off stage and I totally forgot
that they were there.
Because knowing this was a moment of clarity that's very rare for me in terms of knowing myself. I knew I would go down a spiral. Yeah. I knew that I would become self-conscious and I would go down a spiral that I wouldn't get out of. So I went into a kind of, they say denial is always a bad thing.
Denial ain't a river in Egypt.
You know what I mean? And this was a moment where denial was actually the best move. Yeah. So I just, so we just went, I didn't say anything to the band. Yeah. We went up and we played a really, really good show. It was a great vibe. The place was packed, and we had a local crowd that was there for us. And
delusion can be a power. You can you delude yourself. It can actually be a benefit sometimes.
It's small. I mean, it's like sort of like anything in small. The difference is the dosage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's a good line.
Yeah, I think that's a Terrence McKenna thing. The difference between I forget the whole
Be
thing.
a chorus. The difference is the dosage.
The difference is the dosage.
I like that.
And at that point, it worked well. And he was a really good producer. He was great in the studio. He produced Glamour Boys and Which Way to America.
Right.
And it was just a special, crazy time.
What did Jeff Beck say? Did he say anything?
Jeff just hung. I didn't really.
Do you like his guitar playing?
I love his guitar.
Me too.
I mean,
I would think he would like your guitar playing, but maybe he's one of those that
he's a magician. He's a kind of. I mean, they're guitar players that just they're just like Jocko. They have a way of. You can learn the licks, but you don't have that brain. Hendrix's brain was wired a certain way where he was just not just he was entertaining. He could play his ass off, but he was totally entertaining. He was totally, he was that dude.
Right.
And it's rare. You have somebody that can play just like him, but it's like a grim exercise, because they wanted to have to get it just right. He's 100% in his body, so he's not really trying to do anything. He's just being himself.
Right.
See, that's the deal, And so, like all the guitar players and musicians that move me, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
There are people that have incredible technique, like an Alan Holdsworth, who's extraordinary. But then there are people,
metal fatigue.
But they, you know what I mean. But then, Neil Young. I love Neil Young's playing because it's just this abandoned. It's just this raw thing. He's not making an apology for whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. It's expressive.
I've had going back and forth. About Kurt Cobain. I think Kurt Cobain was a brilliant guitar player.
Great guitar player.
And he said, "Well, he's a great songwriter." I said, "Well, you don't get those songs without his guitar playing."
That's true.
Like, they're not. You can't separate them. You know what I mean? It's they're of a piece.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that really that work.
Where's Prince guitars?
Oh my God! Ridiculous. Because he also, again, I said, because we're the same age, he absorbed. He absorbed Santana and Hendrix, but he absorbed, Teenie Hodges. He absorbed Jimmy Nolan. He absorbed, Catfish Collins. He absorbed Freddie King. Freddie Stone.
Oh, Freddie Stone.
As well as Freddie King. Freddie Stone. Yeah. So he absorbed all this funk. He absorbed, like the guitar solo in All the Critics Love You in New York. Like, that's Adrian Belew. Like he's been he knew who Adrian Belew was, and there was a certain amount. He would do these things that were like, oh, you've been hearing all this and all that, but he had his own. Out of all of those many things, he forged one. He had his own style. He was from brilliant guitars.
Yeah, I like. I'm building a pedal board right now, and I know that you have like a mad scientist head for that kind of stuff. And like, I think, how fun is it building pedal boards and like getting sounds together and designing that and redesigning it? Isn't it fun as hell?
I actually love it.
It's fun as hell.
It is.
Like I'm doing it again, and I'm like, I was just while I was doing it, it was occurring to me. I was like, man, I really love this. Like, and then you order like a new pedal. I got FedEx just called me like one of these ones is coming in. This one I forget this boutique company, whatever. Right. But so, like, how much fun do you have when you build that shit?
It's funny.
You have like a bunch.
I have a bunch of pedals and multi effects and things, and I love it. Like I love the stuff from Chase Bliss. They make wonderful.
Yeah, that's the new shit I've been hearing about.
So
it's crazy.
Good. The Maris Company. There are a bunch of companies that are doing.
I got this
wonderful
barefoot one. I just got the pale green compressor.
Source Audio is great. You know, Pigtronics. There's like a lot.
I got the Pigtronics looper.
Red Panda is another great one, and I love what Eventide's been doing. With the H9s and so there's like different. Like companies, like they're big companies like Line 6.
Right, with the Helix.
Which I think is phenomenal.
I got that, but I went away from it. It was like, because honestly, I just think, like, I also heard you in another interview talk about the physicality of the amp.
Yeah.
And how you can't really still duplicate that. Like that's still an important thing.
It's still important.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like I think they're doing amazing things with amp modeling and all that, but I think there's something to be said about
about the air moving behind you.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing about impulse response technology.
Yeah.
And different companies are doing really interesting things. Like Electro Harmonix has got this whole series of pedals. This pedal called the M9.
I have that.
Which it sounds like a Mellotron pedal.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's...
I got the B9 too.
Right. Yeah. And it's like if you pick certain... Like with the M9, if you combine that with a nice like vibrato kind of thing, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
It's really uncanny how evocative it is. It's not the same as a Mellotron, but it's kind of amazing. So we've entered into a place where I used to have guitars with hex pickups on them. I still have some, but now you can get synthesis now with just plugging a regular cable in.
Absolutely.
Have you heard of the new Tool record?
No.
It's really cool.
It's
really cool because it's not trendy.
Yeah.
But the approach overall is very, very cool. There's a certain amount of like the way the guitar sounds are done. I think it's a really cool. Like I was listening, Explosions in the Sky. These guys out of Texas. Like they're very cinematic kind of guitar thing. Yeah. Like there's barely any soloing. There's like really no soloing. It's just like these interwoven parts. Yeah. I love that band. And it's funny because I went and saw King Crimson a while back, and they got 3 drummers. It's a crazy scenario. And the new Tool record is funny because it's got a little vibe, almost like a King Crimson-esque vibe, but they've got their own thing. But Maynard sounds wonderful. It's a really good record.
That album's going up to #1. It's kicking out Taylor Swift.
And you know what's so deep about it? And
That's
you know what?
amazing.
And it's a prog.
It's their first album in 10 years.
Oh, it's a long time.
That's crazy.
And it is prog. I mean, it's prog, but it's not like prog where it's like. It's not like they're trying to do the tuned down heavy. They're not doing that. They're doing their own. They're doing their own thing, and there's something about it. It's they're not in a trend chase. They're doing what they do.
Right.
And it's very, very cool. I was actually, okay, is this going to be one of these records where they're trying to sound like a young, kind of, with post new metal scenario or everything's super aggro. And it's aggro when it needs to be, but it's not afraid of being quiet and taking its time and being textural. I have to say, not that this is an ad for the Tool record, but I have to say, I just got it, and I really do like it.
It reminds me of your Twitter handle, because I really like the way you use Twitter and how you engage with people, and also you're just you have such a you have a lot of things to say about a lot of areas of pop culture. You're just a very interesting thinker, and I don't know, just so you speaking on Tool that makes sense to me, and just and I don't know, getting to that with building the pedal boards too, just your brain is very active.
Well, it's funny, I'm kind of a busybody. I tell you, it's strange because part of the thing of even engaging with the comic book movie culture
I like what you have.
I was going to ask that. I overheard you talking about Batman.
Oh yeah,
talking about
Joker. Talking about Joker.
Oh, the Joker. His Twitter is amazing. He talks about with fans and that he's always got every day.
And the thing is funny, man.
He's one of my favorite people to read.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And some of my followers. What I like about my followers, all my followers, I didn't buy any. I don't have the biggest Twitter thing, but
I didn't even look at your numbers. But I'm sure.
But the thing I like about my followers on Vert22, what I like about my followers is that I have this. There are people that push back. I'll say something. I have some conservative. I have some folks that are really conservative. I have some pro-gun people.
Mm-hmm. It's a good conversation.
And the thing is, I don't name call. I don't get into sometimes
nobody's rude either. It's sometimes but
my lefties and the lefties and the righties will go at each other.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it is what it is. But some of my favorite people are some of the more conservative, and I wouldn't have thought that, but
Yeah.
because the thing is, we have a respectful conversation, and occasionally they'll go, you know what, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, we have to engage. We have to find a way in this country
Yeah.
to somehow engage and still have the integrity of we're coming from where we're coming from.
Right.
But we have to, and this is why the commonalities are so important. Movies, sports,
Interesting.
guitar,
pedals.
The commonalities.
Yeah.
Food.
I love
these things we all have to eat. We all,
Yeah.
we all experience these different things, and the commonalities are the things that really bind us together in the nation.
Yeah.
So, like I had a whole thing about Clapton, and I mentioned this whole thing that Clapton.
Oh, I saw that yesterday. You were like there was like some kind of like maybe he was racist.
Well,
on
he had a
some
whole
level.
thing. Well, he had a whole thing with Enoch Powell and the National Front,
Okay.
and it was like a thing in the '70s, and it was no joke. You know what I mean?
It was, like, what does that mean? I didn't know that about Clapton.
He supported. I think he was in a funky place in his life.
Right.
Like, I think the substance abuse thing was out of control for him, and he's since apologized for it.
Oh, okay.
And some people wrote him off. I know that Jack Bruce had a difficult time when Eric was there. Eric was kind of doing that thing. It was like kind of in the late 70s. And, his embrace of Enoch Powell led to the Rock Against Racism thing, because people really pushed back hard against it. So, but it was funny because that conversation, we had just a previous thread just talking about culinary bits in movies. Like, what are famous bits in movies that feature cooking, but not a movie about cooking per se.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
And that was
Kramer versus Kramer.
Right, talking about Kramer versus Kramer,
Kramer
and they talk about Kramer. Like, you know what I mean. And we talk about Jack Nicholson in 5 Easy Pieces.
Oh yeah, the egg salad sandwich.
The egg salad sandwich. You know what I mean. And that came about because someone was mentioning Paul Newman in Cool Hand Luke.
Fucking Cool Hand Luke, dude. That's my movie.
You know what I mean.
I
the egg
that.
eating
50
contest.
Eggs.
Yeah, and so there were all of these. So I was like going, oh yeah, and it just triggered me to say, wait a minute, there was a Jack Nicholson thing about it, and then I said, man, and people just brought up all of this kind of cool stuff about it, because these, like I said, the commonalities, when everything else is absurd and bananas, because there really are things that are really not on, and there are things that are really really enraging. And part of the thing is, you can't walk around enraged all the time. It's dull, it's boring. Exactly. It's not good for you. It's not good for your health. You know what I mean? So you have to be who you are.
Yeah.
And who we are is a lot of things.
Yeah.
Who we are is very serious, and it's also silly. It's also, you know what I mean? It's absurd. We're in a kind of crazy. We've never had a situation like the situation we're living with right now, where the country is, maybe the country's always been divided, but it's every day we're challenged.
It's reaching a wild state.
And also, aside from blaming any individual person for the way things are, there's a sort of, we've come to a kind of multiple crossroads about who we are, how we're going to treat each other, how we want to live, between between genders and all of it, all of it's kind of like one of the things I'm talking about Batman. The one character that's being avoided in the movies is Robin.
Right.
Robin, and because
I'm a huge Batman fan.
Right, and Robin, because the whole idea of a sidekick of a team.
Well, but he was in the Clooney one. They had.
Okay,
yes,
come on.
He was, but
Well,
that's
what I'm saying,
yeah,
that's
but
the
he
only
was.
time they brought
Well,
up-
That's true.
Clooney was like
And
the best
it was
Batman in the worst movie.
What was the actor?
Horrible.
Chris
Chris
O'Donnell.
Chris O'Donnell. I think
is it Chris O'Donnell?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't
He
know.
hasn't
I
been in
think you're
anything
right. But so why do you think this is that Robin's been avoided with?
I think there's a homoerotic undertones, and I think people are not like the whole idea of the sidekick. Like, what is that? How does that work? Why would you call yourself Robin? I mean, this is like the comic. This is when comic books were really written for young children,
Right.
And Robin, in a way, like thinking about Robin Dick Grayson in the with Adam West and what have you.
Right.
You know, it was like, well, he was kind of like Bruce Wayne as a kind of patrician. You know, he was kind of like a gentleman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a way, he was a gentleman detective. He wasn't like the hard edged martial artist,
right,
hedge fund badass dude.
Right.
Like that came about with Frank Miller's Dark Knight and that the Dark Knight Returns, and that changed the whole dynamic. And we've been really since.
And the Robin in there is even a younger version and a girl.
And it's a female, and he made Robin a female because
of the homo.
He wanted to avoid the so I'm thinking. So one of the things.
But Batman's old in that version.
Batman's a really old dude. So I'm kind of on a vibe like, you know, I started thinking about, you know what, a transgender Robin or a non-binary Robin would be a really interesting reinvention of the character. And I'm not even, and I'm thinking on a level, well, there would be a tension, like maybe how Alfred, maybe where Alfred is like, what's up with that? You know what I mean? And
right.
And the other thing is like, I thought about, well, what if Robin was like non-binary, but he was like Batman's berserker, like he was like
out of his mind,
like he was like out of his mind, and you have to pull him back.
I think you should write this. This could be a musical.
Well, it's weird stuff, man. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, the movies all of the movies that have the Christopher Nolan, like Robin's not in the, you know, no, we're not doing Robin.
In it. Yeah.
And I think Robin, a well-written approach and a different approach to that character
could be interesting.
Could be super interesting. I'm so all in on the Joaquin on TV.
Yeah, that's Robin's the main character. Yeah. They take out the main guys, and it's all the sidekicks.
It's all the sidekicks have their own.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But what do you think of? Do you think of the Joker is going to be cool?
I am, after the last
preview was killer.
The last preview, I tell you, I had a chill.
Yeah.
At the end, when he goes to the announcer and he says, "You know what? Introduce me as Joker."
Yeah.
And I just got a cold feeling because it was like, oh, this is the moment where whatever's happened to him before, it's a moment in the movie where he's crossed over into this persona.
Yeah.
And this Joker is unlike any other. He's not the maniacal sociopath.
Yeah, he's getting his ass kicked a lot in the preview.
You know what I mean? And the world has rejected him.
Yeah.
And he just wants to make the world laugh.
Yeah.
And he's got problems. And you can see his social work. Like, you see people respond to him like, there's something not right with you.
Right.
And even when he's like playing a little game with the kid on the bus.
Right.
And the mom is
and
like,
the mom gets mad.
And the mom says, "Stop bothering my kid. Like, you're creepy." Like, he's like, "You're a creepy dude." And and the thing is, the kid and him are having they're fine. They're fine. And the thing is, the world just
keeps fucking
sees
with
him. And then there's this whole kind of king of comedy.
That king of comedy vibe is strong.
Is really strong.
De Niro's in it for one.
And so
it's definitely
there's a thing. They're going into territory that we've never experienced. And I have a strong feeling that this is going to be one of those movies of the year. I think I don't think that they've made a mistake. I think everything about how he becomes the clown.
Yeah.
And what leads him to this other place, because you can see on the periphery where everyone's putting on the kind of crazy clown masks.
Yeah.
He's managed to inspire this kind of anarchy.
Right.
But the thing about it is, he's also not, you don't get the sense of him leading. Like these are my minions.
Right.
It's strange. And there are a lot of holes to fill in the narrative. But the response of the people that have seen, they've already shown it.
It's amazing that you got all that from the trailer.
No, dude, this guy is an amazing thinker. Like you should be writing essays, Vernon. Like honestly, dude, like you should. Like I mean, because you have a way of thinking that is unusual and really fun to listen to. And also you go deep diving into these realms that are like pop culture, like adjacent, and it's cool.
Well, all of it's of a piece. All of it's of a piece. Like all of it, like
the guitar
maleness is tied up with this idea of being the hero, of being the person to fix a situation. Men always want to fix things.
Right.
Men don't like to listen. They automatically want to mansplain. That's what we do. We're kind of hardwired to do it. And this whole idea of taking that dynamic and flipping it, and flipping it. Part of the reason that we're in the situation, because we're at this crossroads about maleness and who we are, how we show up, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
This is and also rage. All of these things are being embodied and played out at all levels. They're being played out at the border. They're being played out on the screen.
Yeah.
They're being played out.
So you see it all connecting.
They're being played out in tunes. It's there. All these things, and then
you think the Joker's some kind of reflection of modern man?
Well, Heath Ledger's Joker. He so warped that movie. It's weird. That was his movie.
Right.
Christian Bale is fine in it. Morgan Freeman's fine in it. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
But he literally warped the perception. The movie just, he's so, this whole idea of when he says, I just kind of happen. He goes, I don't really think about that. I don't really think about it that much. I just happen. And he's really frightening. Because he's frightening because he doesn't care about the money. He'll burn the money. He'll go in with a bunch of other criminals and he'll kill the other criminals. He's like, and then he meets Batman. He says, "Oh my God, I love you." He's like, you complete me.
Right.
I've been looking.
Yeah, that's from the comics. One can't exist without the other.
I've been looking for a nemesis.
Yeah.
And here you are, and that's changed the conversation. And there's been an attempt to try to respond to this that performance kind of flipped the script. So it's been trying to recover, you know what I mean? And from that performance, and it's like Jared Leto, I'm sorry, he looked cool, and the whole idea of him being like a punk Joker is cool, but there was a level of art, not even malevolent, just like anarchic joy that is really frightening, and we don't really want to talk about the fact that people were inspired by that performance,
right?
And so it had become so definitive that it's incredible that now we have a new interpretation
by Joaquin, who's amazing.
And his interpretation has nothing to do with that. And I think it's going to be disturbing in a whole other direction.
Yeah.
And the people said, "Man, I'm tired of Joker." Blah blah blah.
Who's
one
saying that? I'm not.
Well, there's a Twitter. You have some Twitter.
I'm not saying
but
that.
But there are other. I've always wished that the Riddler was dealt with differently
in a similar way as
because I think the Riddler is also an iconic character, and I think the amount of writing
Didn't Danny DeVito play the Riddler?
No, he played the Penguin.
Oh, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Oh, right.
Jim Carrey
Danny DeVito played the Penguin.
But a dark Riddler.
Catwoman.
Yeah,
a dark Riddler.
But a dark Riddler. Here's the thing: a dark Riddler the writing, the level of writing.
I bet Jim Carrey could do it now. The Dark Riddler.
This is a stupid question, but do you play the Batman games on PlayStation?
I actually don't play the Batman game. I actually have. I'm an iOS gamer. I'm a piker.
Right.
But I mean,
So I'll tell you that the level of storytelling in those video games outdoes the movies by a million. The characters are dark. The stories are like if they could get the movies right, like the video games got the character,
right,
it would be amazing.
Well, the thing about it is that gaming, and most people aren't really.
We're getting back to simulation theory. Gaming.
Well, the thing is, this is something to wrap your brain around. Is that gaming as an industry is bigger than the movies.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Oh, they fill up stadiums with like gamers
and e-gaming is massive. But it's not like the mainstream. It's a weird thing because this is happening at the scale that it's happening, but it's almost like it's underground because the mainstream media doesn't really. They kind of. It's just like with Twitter. The mainstream media was Twitter. Who cares about what you ate this morning? And quietly, Twitter now, a tweet can change the economy. A tweet can affect the stock market. That's what Twitter has become.
Yeah. What do you think of all the deplatforming and stuff across those kind of sites? Does it scare you, the lack of freedom of speech that's kind of creeping up?
Well, what's happening? Well, the thing is, all of the platforms are being manipulated and weaponized. This is the thing. Like the people that came up that did the algorithms, they were optimists and they thought of the best case scenarios for all of it. And with technology, you have to think of the all case scenarios. You have to think of all case scenarios. And developers are loath to do all case scenarios. Because if you do all case scenarios and you present an all case scenario, how are you going to get funding? If you say, well, this is a great thing, but this can be used for blah blah. That's not how you get. You're not. The VCs are just not going to do it, right? So you have to paint the rosiest picture possible, and deliver this. It's going to do this and it's going to do that, and it's going to raise test scores, and everybody's going to be happy, and everyone's going to lose 10 pounds, and blah 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 blah. You have to. That's how you have to sell it. So when you sell it like that, you have to think about human nature. Like bombs were put on airplanes inside of 5 years that the airplane was invented. The bombs were put on it, right? So the idea of the weaponizing, how can this be? Oh, this is great. How like one of the things is
smart. Yeah,
like so we're looking at these videos.
Same with the drones that started as fun. And like
scale it up. Scale.
So you're making the correlation that they're going to do the same thing they do with those with like something like Twitter or like YouTube.
It's already happened.
They weaponize it. How are they weaponizing Twitter?
Well, it's already happened. But
how?
Well, like I said, I'm not
take down governments with it.
Well, just like the fact that a certain person can make a tweet. And then the stock market can go,
right?
Like people have lost jobs. Like Twitter. Interestingly enough, you can get a gig off of Twitter. Like you can do a tweet, and a tweet could lead to like I wound up doing a thing in Tallahassee, Florida. I had a tweet exchange with Jeff Vandermeer, a great science fiction writer. He wrote the book Annihilation, which became this movie. And the Southern Reach trilogy, Area X, and I got the audiobook. I fell in love with it, and then we started exchanging. And he knew about me as a musician, and I wound up going to Tallahassee and doing a music thing, with readings, and it was great. And this was all because of Twitter. So that's the one. So things like that could happen. Well, just like things like that could happen. Like there was a person who made a tweet, and it was a joke. And
are you talking about the lady that was like for going to Africa and
right.
the AIDS joke? Yeah.
Right, made a joke.
Yeah.
And it turned completely sideways. She lost her gig. It turned. She got death threats and it turned sideways. Right.
Yeah.
So these are the things about these platforms and possibilities. People, all Kickstarters.
But what do you think of the deplatforming? Does it scare you at all, or do you Because like last I checked, there was 17,000 YouTube channels that have been deplatformed and like shut down.
Oh, you mean because
it started with Alex Jones?
Yeah.
And then but then it like evolved into like dietary channels get taken down and just shit like that. Just like where it's just like, wait, why?
So
why are you getting taken? Like, it's a
mixed. Again, it's a mixed bag. Like I'm not an Alex Jones fan.
No, but I mean
at all.
But freedom of speech.
There's that.
There's so the whole like I don't have to agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
And the whole idea of silencing people
is scary
because
where does it end?
Where does it end? And who's deciding? Who's deciding? Like it's the old question: who's watching the watcher?
Right.
So how do we respond?
And what's the agenda behind it?
Well, how do we respond to people taking their followers and aiming their followers at a particular? See, there's one thing.
There's just Big Brother trying to control the perception.
But there's a difference between you saying your crazy thing. You say your crazy thing. There's another. There's the difference between that you saying your thing. It's different. It's different when you say, I decide to aim. I certainly get a certain amount of notoriety, and then I aim my followers at someone I don't like. Like in terms of harassment, that's a gray. That's not you saying your opinion. That's also that where is the line between having an opinion, whatever it is, unpopular, whatever, and bullying or targeting people. See, that to me is a bright red line. If you're not targeting people, it's like go after them, whatever, and then your followers are death threatening. It turns into like a Gamergate scenario, whatever. There's a difference between you know what, I think blah 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 blah. You can think blah 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 all you like. I had no problem with it. Seriously, you're crazy, you're nuts. The antidote to speech is more speech. But that's not just what's happening. That's not like what do we do when where's the recourse? So like this lady told a joke, it was a very bad joke.
Yeah, it was a racist joke.
Racist joke.
Bad joke.
Bad joke. I thought it was funny. I didn't, I didn't think I was hurting people, and that may be sincere. The whole idea that now we are in an age where no apology
is good.
Is good enough. No apology is good enough. No apology can the cynicism or where a person gets labeled.
A lot of times people apologize and it just immediately gets used against them, even though the apology seems somewhat like pretty sincere sometimes.
But the thing is, having an opinion, we all have them.
Yeah.
And you say certain things, and then if you say certain things and it's taken the wrong way, as it can, like I've made jokes about. Well, I shouldn't even joke because it could be taken the wrong way, right? Because you have to be careful.
What did you think of Chappelle's special? Did you see it?
I haven't seen it yet. I want to check it out. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, me too.
But but that's what I mean. It's like it's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. It's not free speech. It's because it's like
no. Of
course,
I
thought about this. I was on a line in the security line, right?
Yeah.
I was on a security line, and every man has an inner asshole that just wants to jump out and say some dumb shit, and so I was in the security line. I was moving really slow, and the devil on my shoulder said, "You know what, Vernon? You should just yell, duck."
I hope you didn't.
I didn't do it. But the asshole on my shoulder, the little blue meanie asshole on my shoulder is like, man, be hilarious right now. If If you yell, "Oh my God, Dirk!" And you know, and everybody would have been, and people would have hit the deck, and there was nothing would have gone on, and they would have went, "Who the fuck?"
Oh my God.
Well, Vern, that's on the same level of the guy who walked into the Walmart after the shooting with a gun just to get a reaction to see if it's cool to walk into a Walmart with a gun when you're allowed to carry it. It's the same. He just did it and didn't think it.
You know what I mean? And there and there are consequences to that. Like this whole idea of people being ganged up on and being bullied off of their, getting bullied because they're gay, because they're whatever that's going on. That's not cool. That's not cool. That's not cool shit, man. And so if somebody's getting defunded, cool. if you're aiming, if your followers become projectiles, if you're weaponizing people's, whatever is going on with them, their insecurities, their ignorances, and you're aiming their ignorance at a person, that shit is not good. That's not that goes past speech.
Yeah, of course.
That goes past speech. So at that point, you the thing about
that's not what I'm talking about though.
Well, some of that is what's the deplatforming. Part of the deplatforming is a result of those kinds of things. Yeah. Like if like this whole idea.
So the deplatforming doesn't scare you?
Well, of course it does.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it does concern me, but as a means to deal with certain pernicious, aggressive weaponizings of followers and platforms. Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, I acknowledge it as a slippery slope. It is. It is a slippery slope.
When it's like a channel promoting a diet choice gets deplatformed, that's concerning.
Well,
that's not people turning users against others. That's like somebody promoting a ketogenic diet.
Right.
And it gets deplatformed.
Why did it get deplatformed?
I don't know. See, but there's 17,000 of them, so there's a lot of channels that are, it's not just, Alex Jones and a couple other freaks that are, it's a lot.
Well, also the thing is the guidelines. Here's what's frightening is the guidelines are not clear.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And the whole idea of that it's like the toad in a pot, slow to boil. Like the internet came as this massive free thing, and then we all get engaged into where we can't live without the internet. It's how we operate now. And then, but it was always going to become less and less and less and less of a free thing, to where the perception and everything gets controlled as a means of controlling humanity.
Well, the problem is that's why net neutrality, this whole thing against net neutrality. I mean, the thing is, the companies that walk through the open door want to shut the door behind them. Right. And that's that's a real problem. The entrepreneurship, somebody that comes up and says, you know what, I got a better way to sell used cars. You know what I mean? And they figure out a way to, I don't know what that is, but somebody has a way of doing that's genius, and that people are getting really cool deals, and it becomes a thing that's going to become threatening to somebody. That's going, that's the thing about the disruptive. That's why we don't have the future of the Jetsons, because they're people that they don't want that shit. They're like, why isn't Arizona only running on solar power? Right. It's the Sunshine State. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because lobbyists, because people who are really well versed in making counter arguments, that's the whole thing about a counter argument, really well done counter argument will have you doubting common sense. Yeah. You something obvious becomes suddenly not obvious. Oh, maybe I'm totally wrong, even though it's obvious. Why isn't Arizona leading in solar energy? Because they're oligarchical companies. They're companies, energy companies. They're like, we can't stop the sun. So until we stop the sun, we're gonna make the argument that you using solar power is taking away from everyone that's not. Right. And it's like, what? And it's like, no, you using solar power, you're selfish. You using solar power, everyone else that's not using solar power is subsidizing your selfishness.
Is that what they say?
That's kind of what they do.
Huh, I didn't know.
And then suddenly it's like, oh, I'm a bad person for using the sun. And it's these kind of things, like when people jump up and yell socialism, right? It's like everybody's it's gonna be sackcloth and ashes, and everybody's gonna be, because people love to catastrophize.
Yeah.
It's the catastrophizing model.
I feel like we're in that. That's what the mode right now.
What do the think tanks do? The think tanks tell you the thing that might happen if that's a domino, and if that domino falls, then your daughter, your 5-year-old, is going to be dancing on a pole if that domino falls. And people are freaked out. Oh my God, I want my daughter to be a doctor. I don't want her to be a pole dancer. So, oh my God,
Don't let that domino fall.
Don't let that domino fall. If that domino falls, the G string's going on.
No.
Oh no. But those are the kind of catastrophizing, fear mongering arguments that that
they happen.
They happen.
Hey, if you were a painter, or if you were a painter, like what kind of painter would you be compared to your guitar playing?
Abstract expressionist.
Yeah, but which one?
Well, Ed Clark.
Ed Clark?
Ed Clark.
That's amazing.
Ed Clark is beautiful. He's an African American abstract expressionist.
I also think like Jackson Pollock and Basquiat.
Pollock, it's so funny because I recently saw somebody, again on Twitter, talking about all these problematic artists. But the first time I saw Jackson Pollock, the first time I saw a real Jackson Pollock, I was in Paris.
It blew your mind.
And I was at the Pompidou. It was one of his black and white. And his rage was still in the canvas. I literally couldn't breathe. I saw this painting and I was like,
right.
And it was funny because I'd always heard, oh, he can't paint. My kid can paint like that, blah, blah, blah.
Bullshit.
And then when you experience it, you hear all the opinions, right? All the blah, blah, blah. And then you experience the thing, and the thing is this visceral. You know what I mean? I talk about the second falafel, right? And I talk about the second falafel in that the first time I had a falafel, I nearly spat it out.
Yeah.
I'd never had a falafel before. I said, what the hell is this? I didn't dig it, right?
Yeah.
So the mystery is what made me go to Mamoun's and have the second falafel. Because my first experience of the falafel was not good. And it became one of my favorite foods. It became one of my favorite foods. So my brain got rewired. My brain got assaulted by the taste, and I rejected it because bleh. And something in the middle of all of that was intrigued, and the thing that was intrigued compelled me to have
the second falafel.
The second falafel.
That should be the title of this podcast.
There's been a lot of those. But you knew Basquiat too, didn't you?
I had met him, yes.
You met him?
Yeah, and yeah, man, he was a very gentle. The dude I met was like a quiet. You remind me, so funny. There's a bassist. This is so strange. I'm saying this, but there's a musician out of Memphis named Otto Neon, and you can see his stuff on YouTube. It's really, he actually started to play with Prince actually before Prince passed on. And I have to say, Otto Neon reminds me of Basquiat in that his quiet, kind of watchful person. And I went to a party, my friend Greg Tate, critic, writer, band leader.
Started the Black Rock
Coalition.
With
with Black Rock Coalition, one of the co-founders.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yo, man, there's gonna be a party for John Michelle." So I went to this party, and it was David Byrne was there, all the downtown folks were there, and he was kind of just a cool dude, And when I met him, I was introduced to him, and he was very friendly. And then sometime after that, I was almost on Bowery, and I ran into him. He said, "Hey man, you gotta come, yo Vern, you gotta come by my studio. You gotta come by." And I went on tour, and he had passed. And I was just A real drag. Because I felt like I was looking forward to actually hanging with him and really getting to know him.
Yeah.
So that was very sad.
That is very sad.
It was very sad. But he was genius, you know. He was
genius. Total genius.
And you know, he started out as a graffiti minimalist, because he started out as Samo, S-A-M-O.
Yeah.
You know, Samo, for those who dare. You know, he used to do he did these little cryptic sayings, and he was active around the same time as Keith was. You know,
Keith Haring.
Yeah, around the same, and Keith Haring was doing Keith Haring was doing the glowing babies, and Jean-Michel Basquiat was doing Samo.
Yeah.
All over.
You crossed paths with Lou Reed?
I did cross paths with Lou Reed. Yes.
How come you always ask about Lou Reed on every podcast?
Talking about all these New York people.
I mean, I love Lou, but
Lou was, you know, this was back when Lou had this great band with Tony Smith and Fernando Saunders and Mike Rathke.
Right.
And at one point, he called me because he was interested in kind of.
He loved guitar and all that.
He loved guitar.
He was the pedal.
He liked guitar. He was
tech guitar, like.
Yeah, he was strange. Yeah, you wouldn't think
he was
that
real
Lou Reed
would,
but he kind of was into it, and he was really interested in kind of guitar synthesis.
Yeah.
And he asked me about this particular thing, guitar synthesizer thing, and I actually kind of went into a whole thing about, yo, man, you check out this and check out that. And he was into it because at that time I think Mike Rothke was also doing some of the guitar synth stuff. Yeah. So he was interested.
He had a Moog guitar too. Did you ever mess with a Moog guitar?
I have a Moog guitar.
I have one too, but I need to get a new cable for a new pedal thing.
You know what? You know that Moog is now owned by the employees.
Oh, is that right?
Moog. They
don't make the Moog guitar anymore.
But you can still get it serviced, I think.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, you just reach out to them.
Okay.
Definitely reach out to them, because I had to get mine.
I need to get it because I love that thing.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's the sustain thing is crazy.
The sustain thing is nuts.
Have you heard this pedal called a Freak Out?
No.
It's made by Digitech.
And what is that?
And you can get them on Reverb. Reverb is like, forget it. Reverb is
I've bought a few things off Reverb recently.
So the Freak Out is a little silver pedal, and it's made by Digitech. And basically what it does is that it allows you to have controlled feedback on any note.
So it kind of does the Moog guitar thing?
It kind of does. And you can have like a feedback that's unison. You can have an octave down. You can have it 2 octaves up.
Really?
They took an anti-feedback circuit and reversed it to create feedback.
Interesting.
It's a super... Let me tell you something. You will love it.
Okay, the Freak Out, and then what else should
FREQ.
And what should I get for Chase Bliss if I get one Chase Bliss pedal? If I let myself have one.
If you want to get one Chase Bliss pedal, well, the warped vinyl is a.
What's that do?
It sounds like a record. It sounds kind of. It's like a vibrato pedal.
I just got a vibrato from Bear something. What is it called? Yeah, Barefoot or something.
Hey. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap?
Man,
dude.
It's been real.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Vernon,
I so enjoyed the convo.
Listen, me too. And you were like the first guest we wanted to even have on this podcast.
I know. I'm so sorry it took us a while to do it.
This is perfect. This is perfect. So I'm just really happy that you came and did it.
It's really nice that we're in the Metropolitan Museum.
Yeah.
Do you have time to say what this show that you're playing
Yeah, we're doing this show. We're in rehearsals for the history of our future, and it's a retrospective. It's part of the Mets doing this whole thing on music and musical instruments and things.
Yeah,
but this is like
amazing.
a retrospective, Black Rock Coalition retrospective of a bunch of different musics, and it's and this is going to be the band, the Family Stand. It's the reunion of the original Family Stand, which hasn't happened in that's the big deal. That's happening. Is the reunion of the original Family Stand. A lot of wonderful songs and great musicians. It's fantastic. It's going to be a fantastic thing. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Let's do a photo real quick. If that's cool.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.